It's starting to look like spring here in Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is a welcome change from the winter conditions that we've been having for the past 5 going on 6 months now. But even though the season has changed, one thing remains constant, and that is the cost of living in Canada. We have all heard it, let's admit. Canada is an expensive country to live in. Rent, mortgage is at an all time high, groceries are more expensive than they have ever been, and people are finding it more difficult to survive, especially on a single income. Now, are these issues being faced only by immigrants, or are Canadians really feeling the pinch as well? Today's video, we're going to be talking to two persons to find out what are their experiences right now as it relates to cost of living. For context, we're living in Grand Prairie, Alberta, so they are going to be sharing their experience based on the city that they're living. You guys are new here. My name is Dems, a Jamaican immigrant living in the beautiful city of Grand Prairie, Alberta. Moved here back in 2019, and what can I say? What a journey. If you guys haven't already subscribed, this is where you take a quick opportunity to hit that subscribe button, smash a like on this video, and please let me know, do you think it's expensive to live in Canada? Let's get into it. Dems, and I'm here with
Riley.
Riley. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever missed a bill in your life?
Man, honestly, like, I feel one time I didn't pay my credit card on time, which is brutal, but that's it. One time. I'm really good with it. I like to think that I'm a bit of a perfectionist with that stuff, so let's just say I learned my lesson there.
That's awesome. And what do you do for a living?
I own a video production company.
What is it called?
It's called Flair Visual Productions.
So definitely, guys, go and check out Flair Visual Productions. But what I want to ask you, Riley, do you think it's too expensive to live in Canada?
I notice as, I guess, a man in his mid-20s, Costco runs from 5 years ago pre-COVID till now have probably doubled buying the same stuff. Even gas, thankfully, there's that carbon tax, but I mean, that's just a small little thing. Living wise, when it comes to food, even like traveling to Edmonton will easily cost a family probably a couple $1,000s. Yeah. And yeah, I completely think it's gone more expensive.
And what's your most expensive expense, for lack of a better term?
My most expensive expense. Well, I still rent, so probably I would say my vehicle, because I drive a half ton with gas. I fill that up 2 to 3 times a month, especially 3, sometimes 4 in the winter time, and then insurance and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it's definitely, I try and prioritize keeping my payments small.
Do you think rent is too expensive?
So in Grand Prairie, I feel like it's probably one of the best places in the country. And I seriously mean that. Like Grand Prairie affordability, how much opportunity compared to the rent in other places. But let me tell you this, in Canada as a whole, it is ridiculous. Vancouver and Toronto, I have friends over there. I have one of my best friends that lives in Montreal. It is very normal for people in their mid-20s to late 20s to still live with their parents because it is so flippin' expensive over there. So it definitely kind of depends. I am in an absolutely beautiful situation with rent because me and my landlords are super close. We built a great relationship and whatnot, so I can't speak like all rent is crappy. But in Canada as a whole, absolutely, it is.
So Riley's a good friend of mine, so he's gonna take this as no insult. But if you're watching this right now, please note that Riley's experience might be a little bit different than yours, because Riley is a single white guy in his 20s with no kids.
Yes.
Not yet, at least.
No kids. No little Rileys running around yet.
What advice would you give to someone thinking of moving to Canada or is in Canada to kind of like manage the cost of living they're experiencing?
Don't have a vehicle payment. And honestly, I mean, I've been in banking for 6 years before I owned a video production company. So learning all that is saving money is super important. Don't have a vehicle payment. Just the small little things to get ahead. if you have roommates, have it with somebody you trust and you have a
Mhm.
good relationship with. I think I could talk about this in a full on podcast about like strategies to
Yeah.
keep your life affordable and to live under your means, as that's why I was raised learning. Yeah, no, totally. I think that's probably the best thing for
So
sure.
you stay small enough, long enough, and you'll be big enough soon enough,
Completely.
kind of thing. Now, Riley, tell me a little bit about your business. If somebody wants to find you, where can they find you?
Well, you can search up Flare Visual Productions on Google, or you can go to Instagram and Facebook and search up Flare Visual Productions. Where else am I on? I'm on TikTok. I barely use it, but definitely, or shoot me an email at Riley at flarevisualproductions.com. So a couple
Sweet.
places.
Appreciate it,
Couple
man.
places.
So, guys, let me know what you think about that conversation just now. Let me know right down below in the comment section, and also share any tips or advice you have about navigating the cost of living situation here in Canada. Now, let's talk to the next person, find out what she thinks about the cost of living situation here in Canada. For context, she is older than Riley. She has a family, different stage of life. She's not a mid 20 guy with no children and no family. So let's hear the contrast in perspective. Let's get into it, guys. Tell me, have you found it difficult to live in Canada at any point in your life?
Um, yes, I think. Um, in like what way?
Cost of living wise, have you found things to be expensive in Canada?
I think so, yeah, absolutely. Taxes, all that kind of stuff definitely adds up.
And what do you do for work?
I am a realtor with Royal LePage.
Let's start over. Hi, it's Dems, and I'm here with.
Anakila with Royal LePage.
Absolutely. So if you guys are looking for a house to buy or to sell, you need to contact.
Anakila with Royal LePage.
So as you guys would have noticed already, we're here talking about cost of living in Canada from a holistic perspective. What would you say? No, scrap that. Would you say it's expensive to live in Canada? You answered by taxes, but in terms of like way of life,
Yes, I would say yes.
and what's your most expensive expense?
Uh, probably in perspective, transportation, I would say. Like we have two vehicles in the house, so yeah, that's expensive. You have insurance, you have maintenance, you have car payment, all that stuff, and of course, Grand Prairie. It's we have hard winters, we have rough terrain here, so our vehicles don't last as long.
It's funny you said transportation because the average person would have probably said rent or mortgage because people don't think about the everyday expense such as transportation and so forth, so on. Do you think this is something that affects just one demography of people or it affects everyone? Like, in other words, does it just affect immigrants or Canadians as well?
Like I honestly, I kind of think it's where you live too. Like I know there are places like Edmonton, Toronto, where they have really awesome transportation systems, like buses and stuff, and people use those, like trains and that kind of stuff. I think that would help with that cost. So I don't know if it's more for immigrants or people that are uh,
Morning.
born here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it can be tough for anybody, really.
Yeah.
And like Grand Prairie, like we don't have a great transit system, like those kind of things. So you kind
Mhm.
of do need your own vehicle. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now let's talk about groceries. I know you're joking that you don't look on your grocery bill, but like me, I penny pinch all the time. I'm like, not to put that back. We don't need that. Do you do that as well, or do you think groceries is fairly affordable?
Like don't get me wrong, I do like to get a deal every once in a while too. But I have noticed a huge increase in the cost of things. Like what did I see? A seedless cucumber for 7.99 the other day.
Cucumber for 7.99. That's
I
crazy.
was like, oh my gosh, like maybe if it was organic, but I don't think it was.
But even
So
if it was organic, that's still a pretty expensive
it's
cucumber.
bananas. Yeah.
Well, it's not bananas, it's
No.
cucumber, but you know what I mean. So tell me now, you mentioned you're always looking for a deal. With that mindset, what advice would you give to someone who's probably finding it difficult to manage the cost of living in Canada? Like, what can they do to kind of like survive? In your own opinion, of course.
Oh my gosh. Be ambitious. I think if you're ambitious and you work hard, and you're willing to kind of take risks, I think you can do really well in Canada.
But from a cost of living perspective, like for example, any tips to like live within their budgets kind of thing? Like, oh, Anna is a realtor, so she has the dinero, so she probably doesn't know how to live on a budget anymore. But when you are living on a budget, what tip would you give to someone who's trying to live on a budget?
Um, just be creative.
Hmm.
For entertainment, like coming to a park like Muskasipi,
Okay.
or taking advantage of things that happen in the community. And uh, yeah, I think you can be happy whatever you do. It's a
Hmm.
choice, really.
Is Canada, of course, this is really opinionated, but is Canada as expensive as people make it out to be?
I've only ever lived in Canada, so I don't know like comparatively.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say, yeah, it's definitely not cheap to live here. Like, especially winters, you have to make sure you have separate winter clothes.
Mm.
You have to get winter tires for your vehicles. So yeah, I do think that it can be pricey here for sure.
What about kids? Like you have a few kids of your own. Was it expensive growing your kids? I know they're a little bit older now, and probably still financing them. I don't know, but when they were younger, would you say it's expensive having a kid
Oh,
here?
yeah, for sure. Car seats, winter boots, like I think the list goes on and on. But I chose to stay home and do babysitting.
Okay.
So we didn't have daycare costs because I babysat. But if we would have had to put them in daycare, it would have been crazy, astronomical.
That's us, by the way.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah,
Childcare is one of the biggest expense that any family can have here, and it's pretty expensive. It racks up
very.
pretty expensively. But you mentioned transportation being your biggest one, and grocery. What's your average grocery cost? Like when you go to do your grocery shopping, fill your cart. Say you make a Costco run, average. What would that cost you?
We just did Costco the other day, and it was $650.
Holy moly! What did you guys buy?
I didn't even think we bought that much stuff. It was like, I don't know, we got some meat, some vegetables, like just food.
Hmm.
So
And that 600 and whatever bucks, is that usually like month worth of grocery, or is it just a couple of weeks?
probably 2 weeks.
You would need to have a serious talk with Matty. what, what is it? It's a kids. Gotcha. So pretty much you're looking on roughly say 1,200 bucks a month.
Yeah, yeah. If we don't eat out,
If you don't eat out, if you eat out, what would it cost you typically? Ballpark. I'm not asking for your monthly budget here. Don't whip out your Excel spreadsheet. None of that. But just off the top of your head, if you are going out every now and again, doing the regular grocery shopping, off the top of your head, what would you say that average cost would be?
1600 to 18 probably.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
That's pretty in Jamaican currency. That would be roughly $170,000 a month. Which somebody's watching this right now and be like, "Holy moly, that's my that's my house." Yeah, but it's how it is, and it's really relative. Cost of living is really relative to your own personal circumstances. I get it. Like for me, I think it's really expensive to live here, but you earn more as well. So I mean, income versus expenses equal your cost of living, so forth, so on. And because we live in northwestern Alberta, things take a little bit longer to get here, so groceries are more expensive and so forth, so on. So the point I'm trying to make is, it's not that expensive that you see yourself moving.
No, gosh, no. Because of the opportunity, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can somebody find you?
I am on Instagram and Facebook. If you just search Anakila Royal LePage, you should be able to find me at either one.
We're talking about cost of living, so if you're trying to find a house on a budget, you definitely want to reach out to Anna Q. She helped us get our house, by the way, on a budget, I must say. And you guys know me, I'm pretty fussy. So if you guys are looking for a house to sell or to buy, reach out to Anna. And I see you doing this rent to own thing with Requity Homes as well. Tell me, how's that going?
Really good. Actually, I've got my first, actually, just today, just removed conditions on the first purchase with them.
Okay.
And they can help people that have lower credit score, people newer to Canada. Um, if you've had bankruptcy or a consumer proposal, that's okay as long as you're discharged, like it's
Yeah.
not active. So yeah, it can be a really great option for people that don't have a perfect circumstance for maybe a conventional mortgage.